Last night some of us from Brisbane went to hear Catherine Devaney speak at the comedy festival here. The title of her talk, for her act, her comedy act, was "God is bullshit, that's the good news." Well, I would have to say that I agree with most of what she said about God. Because the God that she spoke about is the God that I believed in most of my life. But like her, I have come to see that that God is an idol. I could never have dreamed 12 months ago that we will be where we are now. We've continued to flourish as a community, and most of the community came with us, and others constantly joining with us now. And I guess the big thing for us is that the Progressive Spirituality Network, or the Progressive Christian Network, reached out to us from the very beginning, up in Brisbane and now down here. And I guess we've always been, for 20 odd years, we've been talking about being church in a new way. And so we were a progressive community within the Catholic scene already, and the Progressive Network of people recognised that and reached out to us, and now I feel that quite possibly we will continue to be part of that movement. When I went to Rocky, Noel Preston sitting in the front, and Noel invited me up to Rocky to launch the book. What's the book called? Your book. Peter Kennedy. Peter Kennedy, the man who threatened Rome. Are we still part of that Catholic Church? Well, we are culturally, and I would say that had Vatican II been allowed to continue, I think St. Mary's in Exile, as we call ourselves today, would have been a mainline Catholic community. But because John Paul II and Cardinal Ratzinger turned Vatican II on its head, that stopped the possibility of the Church opening up to the world, as was the intention of John the 23rd when he called that council, to open the Catholic Church up to the world. So I guess, in many ways, I don't think we're in heresy. I think the Church itself is heretical in the sense that it does not continue to take seriously the decisions of a world council. It took me to the Bulletin up there in Rockhampton, and I had an interview there for about an hour. And then on the Saturday morning, headlines were screaming on the front page, "Meet the priest who doesn't believe in God." And Noel sort of panicked a little bit and thought that was a terrible line, but I thought it was a great line actually. For many years, I have not considered myself to be a priest in that sense of that you're ordained and you are ontologically different to everyone else, and that only you can bring about the Eucharist. For many years, that's why at South Brisbane, the community itself, for many years and still today, it says the whole Eucharistic prayer together. And so it is to my way of thinking, we need to bring to the fore, if you like, the priesthood of all the faithful through our baptism, and to downplay the hierarchical priesthood. And in that book, our book, I quote Rabi of Basra, a Muslim mystic in the 14th century, who said, "Nobody knows anything about God, and those who say they do are just troublemakers." I like that very much. But all my life as a Catholic, of course, we've had the magisterium teaching us, telling us what God is, of course. I did not envisage that they would invite us back into the church the way the church is at the moment. I could only think about coming back to the Catholic fold, if you like, if they were to ditch most of the doctrines of the Catholic Church that arose in early centuries of the church's existence, which really is the Constantinian church. So though all those dogmas and doctrines of the Catholic Church would really have to be ditched before you could consider coming back into the fold, and I don't think that's going to happen. And God is ultimately unknowable and unknown. As the mystics say, God is darkness. God is, and Eureka says, nothing is so much like God as silence. Nothing is so much like God as silence. God is emptiness. I do believe in God, but not that God that we will be brought up to believe in. Karl Rahner, the great Catholic theologian, actually said that until we become mystics, well, only if we become mystics will the Church survive. And that tradition has been there for centuries. And it's not only Christian. The great thing about that, of course, is that it's the mystical tradition of all the great religions. It's the one unifying factor of all the great religions, of the great faiths, the three monotheistic faiths, if you like, of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. That's the unifying factor for an understanding of God. Not this idol that somehow intervenes and saves some people and not save other people, was watching us, and if we do good things, well, that God is approving, do bad things, that God will send us to hell. That sort of God's an idol. We don't know what God is, but that there is something more, I perceive, I intuit, that life is so mysterious. Life as it is so incredibly mysterious and wonderful that there is something more.